Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 102 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I'm your host, Mark Harris, coming at you with the solo episode here on Thursday, November the 7th, 2024. We are part of the College Huddle broadcast network with tons of great fan run YouTube shows and podcasts that do a great job of explain their perspective on teams. So always be sure to check out the College Huddle on social media. You can find it on Twitter. And please like and subscribe to the Stomp the Bus Show. Rate and review on your favorite podcast of choice. Well, everyone, huge news in the country. Unexpected news that would have shocked people a few months ago. The Arizona State Sun Devils are going bowling. That's right. 6-2 with 4 games to go. Arizona State defeats Oklahoma State 42-21 despite a road trip and their first weather delay of this season, a weather delay that took about 2 hours and 38 minutes, so a lengthy weather delay, and they were still able to come out on top against the Cowboys, absolutely destroying them. Cam Skattebo had more total yards, 274, than the entire Oklahoma State team, which had 270 yards and only 55 yards in the second half before the backup came in. It just a awesome performance. And, you know, the huge caveat is Oklahoma State is a bad team. And I am not here to deny that. Like, Oklahoma State is a bad team. This is a better view right here. Okay. There's Oklahoma State's such a bad team. They don't even have the logo up on ESPN. That's how gross they are. 3-6, only team that doesn't have a conference win. But you know what? ASU went in there and took care of business. And that's exactly what you want to see for an ASU team that, 6-2 is based on who they've played this year and how those teams have done outside of their games against ASU. 6-2 isn't really that crazy of a record. It's not like this is a 6-2 team that's like really pulled games, from being losses, winning a bunch of close games. And they have won close games, but they're also just a better team in these matchups that they've won. So it's impressive to see, and some of it is due to who they're playing. I mean, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Mississippi State all being really bad was unexpected. Wyoming being as bad as it was unexpected. And Utah, even though I think Utah played well in the game against ASU in some respects, they're clearly having a down year. So it's kind of a weird way to get there to bowl eligibility. But, in past years, we were the Oklahoma States of this year. Arizona State was the Kansas team that lost a bunch of close games and has a bad record. Arizona State was the Utah team that underachieved with high expectations. Arizona State last year was among the worst Power 5 teams, like Mississippi State is, and Oklahoma State is, for that matter. So, this I'm proud of the ASU fan base for not being like that upset that ASU isn't ranked. I don't think they should necessarily be ranked. However, if they beat UCF, then at 7-2, I don't care who they've played. Like, you should be ranked at that point. And I think they will beat UCF. I think the spread, it's a 3-point spread, -2.5 ASU some places. I can see how that gets there. ESPN FPI gives ASU a 60% chance to win that one. That feels about right, with Cam Skattebo being doubtful to play and Keyshawn Elliott out. I think those are both spots on the team where the depth is good enough to win a game like this. So I'll kind of preview that game a bit more, but it was just so nice watching this game. And I especially the second half was just bliss. It was a blissful experience because it was so nice just watching them pull away, watching them force 3 and outs on defense. I mean, Skattebo was incredible. Just running over guys, absolutely running through guys. 23 carries are 153 yards, and of course, his last carry is what knocks him out. Knocks him out for the UCF game. But I mean, 4 catches for 121. Like, it was just a masterful performance. And Sam Leavitt, I don't know if it was his best game as a Sun Devil, but it's good to see him just, even if a lot of the 304 yards that he passed for were yak from Skattebo or yak from Mateer, like it's still good to see that number. And it shows that he's really well suited in the offense. They have a lot of good plays they can turn to. And so it's a good thing to see. And he looked unaffected by the rib injury, and that was a real concern, right? We were on the podcast being like, I hope that he's good to go, and he was fine. I mean, he just had a handful of plays in this game where he avoided sacks, and either the one play where he had a 7-yard run that forced a 4th and 1 that ASU would score on, or the spit out throw to Skattebo, which was just an awesome play. He's really grown over this season, and I don't think anyone expected Leavitt to be this good. And you can just see how much he's improved as the season has gone on too. So it seems like he has a really good connection with Dillingham, and it's just so promising to see his progression. Just that first touchdown pass to Tyson was just a extremely accurate throw, and hit him right on the money so he can just waltz into the end zone. And he's not perfect. He's still going to have some missed throws and stuff, but it was a really good game from him. He spread the ball around too. ASU's other wide receivers haven't exactly been featured players really this year. But Jake Smith with a big 30-yard catch, and that was when the game was still in the balance. Seeing O'Meara and Stovall contribute is really good to see, especially you're going to need that this week with Skattebo likely out. Mateer, again, just a solid game. Skattebo is it's just crazy the numbers this guy puts up. Because he had 100 yards receiving against Texas Tech. He just contributes in so many ways. Tyson, 8 for 81, looked good. Had one dumb drop that ultimately didn't end up hurting them, but an annoying play. Kyson Brown, this was a really good game for him too. He had some big runs. His first touchdown run was awesome. He broke a few tackles. And again, he's going to be a big part of Saturday's game against the Knights. I'm just excited to watch what he can do. He's a good player. He's physical enough. He's not Skattebo, obviously, but you give him the ball and it's not a disaster. And so I'm excited to watch him. I think this offensive line is just obviously there are some plays that Skattebo makes on his own, but I just think that, we're over halfway through the season and there hasn't really been much talk about the ASU offensive line. And I think that's a really good thing. And they're still rotating in tackles too, between Atkins and Boley. So you have that. It just seems like whenever they go back to pass, there just isn't that much interior pressure, and you've had guys shift in and out at right guard. It's been Kyle Scott for the most part now, and he's done a great job. Pautanu's been good. Ben Coleman, it turns out ASU really missed Ben Coleman last year. We didn't know it, but it turns out they really missed him. And Max Iheanacho at right tackle is maybe the unsung hero of this team. So it's really impressive to see, and that'll keep you in games. I think this offensive line will be a reason they win, even if they lose to UCF. I think because of this offensive line, they will beat one of Kansas State and BYU. I don't know which one it'll be. More obviously BYU, but Kansas State has shown they are not infallible. They're much better at home, but they are not infallible. So you have to feel good about this team right now. You have to feel good. And I think pretty much all the projections show that a 2-2 finish down the stretch of the season is the most likely outcome. And that feels about right. But I think what we've seen from this team and what we've seen from the rest of the Big 12, that's a key factor in this, is that going 3-1 sounds pretty reasonable. It seems pretty reasonable. It doesn't seem like some enormous task to go 3-1 down the stretch. You have 2 home games. One is a game that you appear to be the better team, and then another will be more of a 50-50 game. You have a road game against Kansas State that is tough and is unlikely that you win. And then you have the Territorial Cup against an Arizona team that's fading. There's no other way to put it. And who knows how. I mean, it is a rivalry game, but I think that ASU's style of play will be able to overcome any sort of pluckiness from the Wildcats. But that's looking down the road a bit. I'm happy with where this team is. And the fact that a ranked finish is really within the realm of possibility. I mean, that means you can go to a decent, like you can go to the Alamo Bowl or a Holiday Bowl, something that ASU hasn't done. ASU hasn't had a season like this if they go 9-3, since 2014. And so it's just, granted they could, fade down the stretch, but no matter what happens, they already have the bowl game clinched. It's so nice to just not have to worry about that as a fan. Not because if they lost last week, one, it would just be their first really bad loss of the season. That's another thing. This team has not lost stupid games. Maybe you could say the Cincinnati game, but when you have a backup, like, I don't know, like that game looks less dumb now that we've seen Leavitt again. I don't think they lose, but anyway, they haven't dropped a dumb game yet. Now, there's 2 more opportunities this weekend in the Territorial Cup, but it just appears they're just solid enough in so many areas that you have to, like, the other team has to play well for them to beat ASU. So they're just a team you don't really want to face. They're a team on the rise. They're a team that clearly has to have grown in confidence, right? This is only their second blowout win of the season, right? This is their second one. So it's not like, it's not like success has been amazing. Like, it's not like they've been uber successful. They've just been good, but they're clearly just able to be a solid team. And I'm going to pull up College Football Insiders by CFB Graphs. This shows, whoopsie doodle. Okay, hold on. Basically just pulling up some advanced stats from College Football Insiders. They measure EPA per play, so that's basically how well you do on a play given the down and distance. So this is the overall ranking. So overall ranking is Ohio State, and then you get Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss, Florida, Tennessee, Indiana, Oregon weirdly low at 8, Notre Dame 10, or Notre Dame 9, Georgia 10. So kind of just a rehashing of the top 10. Penn State 11, so they drop a bit. But you get the point. Like, it's takes into the advanced stats, and it's pretty reflective of the top 25. BYU is, where is BYU? Oh, they're at 20. Okay, so Iowa State's at 14, SMU 13, Louisville at 15. Washington, South Carolina, Boise, BYU, K-State, Iowa at 22. 23rd best team in the country, according to College Football Graphs. And the 4th best in the Big 12 is Arizona State. They think ASU, based on the numbers, is the 23rd best team in the overall rankings. And in offense, ASU is ranked 22nd. And they are also 22nd in rush rate. So that's interesting. And then 37th in dropback rate. Iowa, 15th in rush, 100 in drop back. That's insane. That's the only red mark that's on the top 25. Just ridiculous. But they have UCF at 27, so they do like UCF a bit. I think it really values teams that can run the ball at a high clip. So now we go on defense, overall rank. Whoop. Okay, New Mexico is the worst defense, according to this. Okay, Ohio State, number 1, Tennessee, Oregon 8, Georgia 9. Iowa's 11. Okay, Washington 14. Man, the metrics love Washington. ASU is 30th in defense. Okay, that's not terrible. Like 24th in rushing rate, success rate allowed. You take that. 34th in passing. Not abysmal. Right next to Colorado, right next to Cincinnati. It's better than Kansas State and Utah. So their offensive overall rank. Let's look at that before we close out of this. I'm basically just going through this to say, like, ASU is a good, solid team, and it's not. The record is good, and they have feasted on some bad teams, but so they're 22nd in rushing or in offense overall because they 22nd in rushing and then 37th in dropback rank. So it really does reward the teams that run the ball well. So interesting to see. As for UCF, they're going to want to run the ball well. RJ Harvey is a great running back, averaging 7 yards per carry, 16 touchdowns, 1,200 yards. Like he's done it against everyone. Although I do want to look through his stat sheet. It's quite annoying that it is not on screen right now. Nope, not slides. Share screen. I understand. Okay, RJ Harvey page. Here we go. Yeah, 1,200 yards, 16 touchdowns, 7 yards a pop. This dude's good. You'll see him on Sundays. I'd say if it weren't for, I don't know where he ranks on the best running back in the Big 12 list because you have Taj Brooks at Tech and Skattebo. But there is a correlation. He hasn't ran as well against the better teams that they played, save for BYU. BYU, he ran for 8 yards a carry, but they also lost that game by 13 points. So cool. Like he ran for 13 yards a carry against New Hampshire, 6.6 yards and 4 tutties against Sam Houston. Okay, like those count. 6.2 yards against TCU, 2 touchdowns. Colorado stoned him relatively. 77 yards, 4.8 per carry, long of 13, nothing special. He did have 92 reception yards and a 75-yard touchdown, so he didn't hurt them in other ways. But Florida, the Gators, 4.7 yards a carry, 1 touchdown, big pass play. Cincinnati, 17 for 94, which isn't a bad game, but that's not enough. The UCF offense only scored 13 points. So against Colorado, Florida, and Cincinnati, he's okay. But to his credit, against Iowa State and BYU, one close loss of one a decided loss, he's got running for 8 yards a carry and scored 2 touchdowns both games. So I would expect him to get at least one big play against ASU. I don't know what it means that he had 184 and 8.4 yards against U of A. Like, I don't know what that 56-12 result means. It's really an outlier in UCF season. They had just lost 5 in a row, 3 of those 5 by multiple scores. And then they destroy a Arizona team that just clearly is just playing very badly. Their other Big 12 win was a nail-biter against TCU, and then they won their early games. So this is a scary team. They're off. Their defense is not good. Their defense is not good. They gave up 37, 38, 19, Cincinnati, 24 to Florida, 48, Colorado, 34 to TCU. So they've given up some big totals multiple times, and I don't think you can really ignore that when previewing them. They're down to like their 4th string quarterback. this guy, Dylan Rizek. He's been pretty good for them so far, but he's played in 2 games. He's played meaningful ball in 2 games. Threw for 6 of 10 for 100 yards against BYU and a touchdown. Decent runner. 4 for 31, 9 for 55 against Arizona. 20 of 25 for 294, 3 touchdowns against Arizona. One of those was a Hail Mary. So he's not the worst. He's not the worst quarterback ASU will have played, but they should be able to handle this guy. He is a good player. He is better than your average, freshman starter. I'll give him that, and he's done well in games so far. But hopefully, this is a game where some, exotic blitzes from Brian Ward do their trick and get a sack fumble. I think ASU's they got 1 turnover last week against Oklahoma State. It didn't matter in the course of the game, but that's what you want. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for some turnovers off Rizek, and ideally you put him in a hole early on so that minimizes the effectiveness of RJ Harvey, because he's a good, he'll have some big plays in this game. I'm not worried about that, but I think that ASU, a really simple path to victory for them is just building, let's say they're up 24-7 at halftime or something like that, a decent lead, and just kind of, make them throw the ball the rest of the game. So this should be a win. It's a losable game. It's absolutely a losable game. Let's see how many points per game is UCF giving up, because that is important. Okay. I think ASU is giving up around 22 points per game, which is respectable. UCF, offense. Yes, they are one of the highest yards per game on offense. But what about on defense? Oh, come on, ESPN. Let's go. There we go. Texas giving up the fewest yards per game in the country. UCF is in the middle, very much in the middle. 366 yards per game. Their rushing is 117 yards per game allowed, which isn't. So they're interesting. Their defense isn't as bad as I expected it, but when I see, I look at their schedule. Come on, work. Hold up. Okay. Yeah, so they're giving up 25.4 points per game. ASU's at 22.9. So from that, it just doesn't look very different. But ASU has only given up 31 and 30 points. I think that allowing 12 to Arizona is skewing it, because you gave up 37 to BYU. You gave up 38 to Iowa State. 24 to Florida, that's not bad. But still, 34 to TCU and 48 to Colorado. Against power teams, it was either the Cincinnati game was low scoring. They gave up 19. They gave up 12 to U of A. And then they gave up an okay 24 to Florida. But that's still 5 games you've given up mid-30s points or more. And so when you're on the road facing a good team like ASU, that's not ideal. And then ASU's defense, again, even in the last game, they just improved as the game went on. So yeah, ASU, they're giving up 23, 28, 30, 31, 19, 24, 21. So they've been very consistent in the points allowed category, where, yeah, you're going to get to 17 points on ASU probably. But it's going to be difficult to get to 27 points. And they're probably going to get to 31. I would be surprised if ASU doesn't get to 30-plus points in this game. So ASU has much more pathways to victory in this game than UCF does. So I'll pick ASU to win. I'll go 31 to I don't know. 31-23. 31-23 ASU. I'll do that. I think it's a game that ASU just kind of pulls away in. So that's my thought on that. And also, I do want to address the delay, the weather delay. I was absolutely 100% hoping for the game to just be called and for ASU to win. Maybe that makes me a bad fan. Maybe, like it's anti-competition. Like, I don't care, because here's what I'll say. Even though it was fun to watch that game, ASU just totally steamroll them. Kim Skattebo would be healthy for this game if it was called at halftime. He would be. So I'm not even like dunking on anyone, because that's not what I'm trying to convey. But it's just like I was rooting for it to just be called, because it was a one-score game at half. It wasn't, even though it felt like ASU was the better team, it was still not a guarantee at all. So, yeah, I will go with ASU to win. I don't think that UCF, with a freshman quarterback making his first road start, it just feels like a really tall order for the Knights to pull off. So they're a plucky team, and they have some talent in spots. This is not, they're better than Oklahoma State last week, that's for sure. They're probably, I don't know where to put them against Utah. They're not as good as Texas Tech. They're not as good as Cincinnati. I'd probably put them in the same bin as Kansas. And Kansas, I think what people need to understand about that game is ASU had a lot of things go against it, against the Jayhawks. It was not a smooth game. You had a blocked field goal. You had a dropped pass that directly resulted in an interception. You had a fumble that was a pretty dumb play by the receiver in ASU. Like, you had some coverage busts. At least one or two times where the safety was just in the wrong spot, and it led to an easy Kansas touchdown. I think that stuff has been shored up a bit, and this team's played really well at home as well. Their worst games are their 3 previous road games, aside from Oklahoma State. So I think all those things. ASU's got a better defense. ASU's more consistent. Leavitt's been better than he was. So, gonna take the Sun Devils to win and get to 7-2. If they do get to 7-2, I think they will sneak their way in to the top 25. All right. Speaking of a team that won't be in the top 25 anytime soon, it doesn't look like, is ASU men's basketball. I did not watch a second of the game on Tuesday, so bear that in mind. There were some other things going on at the time, actually, that I was more plugged into than that game, but I was following. ASU did win 55-48. Just unimpressive. And I can't I don't know if I can pick this team to make the turn. And I know that may seem like a overreaction after one game, but we see this all the time with Bobby Hurley coach teams. And if the offense just looks so bad, I don't know. You shoot 36%. 3-point wasn't even terrible. It wasn't good. 29%. 14 turnovers. It just can't happen. I mean, you played great defense. You held them to 14% 3-point. You held them to 25% overall. Like, that's great defense, but you're playing Idaho State. Like, who cares? It's, I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be another ugly year. It's good to see. Oh, who was it? Sean Phillips, 8 points. Clearly looks a lot better. BJ Freeman, 12 points. You like to see that. You know, Sinone, a quiet 11 points. Quainton's not a great debut. He'll be better as he goes along. 6 blocks, though. My gosh, like contributing already at least. Jihad 0 of 7. I don't think that will continue. Some of these guys just had bad games, but I'm more down on this team after one game than I was entering the season. So there's still a long way to go. It's one game. They did win. They didn't blow it, but Idaho State is never considered a good, low major team. So that's a concerning thing. And this game against Santa Clara is all of a sudden just becomes very, very important. You don't want to enter the Grand Canyon game 1-2 because you're probably just losing to Gonzaga. You're playing it at Spokane. They've looked good. Maybe if you really muck it up and play good defense, you can beat them. But they're just a better team than you. 90% chance to win. Seems about right. I cannot dispute that. Santa Clara, you're playing him in Vegas for some one-off thing, or Henderson. 67% chance to win on ESPN FPI. Okay, I hope that's right. Santa Clara's last win was 85-78 over St. Louis, generally considered a better program than Idaho State. Now, you beat both. Each game was won by the same margin, so I guess that's good. But it's a big game on Flow Sports. It's a big game just because you could. Getting through this first little stretch 3-1 would be great. I don't see how that happens. And it really feels like this game against Santa Clara is probably your best chance to actually win. And so that is concerning to me. But it's one game. I don't know. I guess my expectations for this team have just gone down. I can't really... I hope by the time they're playing New Mexico and Florida, they have some things more figured out because they're going to need to win some of these big games in the non-conference. Even though it's, playing a Big 12 schedule, like you still got to win some of them. So that wraps it up with men's basketball. I do want to touch on volleyball. Sun Devils have been outstanding in volleyball. What am I doing? Okay. Had over 4,000 people at Mullet for their game against number 8 ranked Kansas. It's their 11th win in a row, 23rd win, 5th ranked win. Just a really, really good game. And, I'm very interested to see how far this team could go. I'm looking at their schedule. Their last 2 wins so they've just won their last 3 games. At Arizona, you win 31. You win 3-1. 31. At BYU, they win in 5. Number 20 BYU. At number 22 Utah, sweep them 3-0. In Tempe on Wednesday night against number 8 Kansas, like I said, they win 4 sets. They host Kansas State Friday night. At West Virginia on the 14th, at Cincinnati on the 16th, versus Iowa State on the 21st, at Colorado on November 23rd, hosting UCF on the 29th. Of those 6 remaining games, none of these teams are ranked. So that leads me to believe ASU has a very good chance of finishing the season 29-2 overall and ending the season on a 17-game win streak. Undefeated at home. Their only losses are to Nebraska, powerhouse, and they lost at number 19 Baylor in September. But other than that, they've completely taken care of business, and they should be very well could finish the year as like a top 5 seed in the NCAA volleyball tournament, and that would just be such an awesome turnaround. And I get it. Volleyball is not the biggest. Like, I can't name you an ASU volleyball player right now, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm, Mr. Volleyball. But it's a really entertaining sport. It's grown a lot in recent years, and just for ASU to be a real, I mean, I could say national contender, right? I don't think they were going to be able to actually win the national championship, but I think you can call them a national contender if they finish, 30 game season or 29 match season with only 2 losses, and only their losses were to good teams. Like, you just have to be impressed with what they've done. And so hopefully it can, I don't want to say like inspire the other teams to play better, but maybe just to serve as a guideline, a template for other coaches to see, like, hey, like, this is how you can succeed at ASU. So really looking forward to see how they finish the season. All right. That's it for this quick episode. Please like and subscribe, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. Follow the College Huddle. And on Tuesday of next week, Colton and I will join the Cocaine Willie podcast, which is a Kansas State fan podcast on the College Huddle. We will just preview the game in the Little Apple of Manhattan, Kansas. So that should be fun. And, I really like hopping on these other shows to talk ball and preview these games. So sounds good. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. And as always, whoop, go Sun Devils, baby.